And welcome to Shamanic Sundays. My name is Kimberly Pinkson, and I'm here with my dad, Dr. Tom Pinkson, a world-renowned shaman, spiritual medicine teacher, psychologist, author, and awesome dad. And we are happy to be sharing this Sunday morning with you. And our goal is to be able to share some shamanic teachings in a way that are accessible to a wider audience that maybe wouldn't necessarily go do a shamanic ceremony per se in the traditional sense, but still want to learn about how we can take some of the shamanic teachings and practices and integrate them in our daily life. Does that sound about right, Pops?
Sounds good to me, yeah.
Okay,
Thanks
awesome.
for helping make this happen, doing this.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to turn off my phone here. I just realized I left that on. So, and of course, part of why we're doing this is because you have been a real pioneer in this space and being a bridge between your Indigenous mentors and helping to carry back their teachings to those of us in the North, as you were told. Can you tell the story of why that was told to you, that was important?
Well, Guadalupe de la Cruz, Huichol Contadora, that was my spiritual grandmother and a primary figure for me in my 11-year apprenticeship with the Huichols. At one point, when I was hanging out with her in the village there, she talked about how I think we were making preparational offerings for a pilgrimage we were going to be going on. So plenty of time hanging out by Grandpa Fire, and she mentioned that Father Son, Taupa, was coming closer and closer to Mother Earth, and this was long ago, back in the 80s. That I don't think I'd ever heard the term global warming at the time. But in any case, she said that Father Son was coming closer to Mother Earth, and the reason that was happening was because she said the people in the North had forgotten that the sun was alive, that the fire was alive, that the earth, the wind, the ocean, the mountain, the land was all alive. And we'd forgotten how to live in respectful relationship with these other beings that give us and our lives and sustain our lives. And so the sun was coming warmer to try to wake us up, heat us up and wake us up to pay attention. And then she said, you need to go back up north to where you live with the people you live with and help them remember, help them reawake to the aliveness of these what we call natural powers, phenomenon: the sun, the moon, the earth, the wind, the rain, and help people wake up to the aliveness, and therein, by listening, come into a respectful relationship with these powers instead of disrespectful relationship that causes the problems we're in with climate catastrophe.
That was pretty prescient, that's for sure. And we know, of course, there's so many different cultures and civilizations that there's been prophecies about this time, and we're living it. For sure. We were just talking about the one of the big differences in civilization today compared to other civilizations that are no longer with us is that we have a technology that allows us to hear about any piece of news at any given time in the world of what's happening on the other side of the planet, and how our systems aren't necessarily wired to be receiving that much information in that regard. And so it just makes me think of like going into a shamanic journey, a plant medicine journey. One of the things you really talk about in preparation is opening up and like surrendering to all of the information that the plant medicine wants to give you, right? So it's like you're opening to a download. So it's like in the World Wide Web on our digital devices, we're getting this download of nonstop information. And sometimes it's fantastic and there's incredible benefits to it. And sometimes it's too much. I'm just wondering if there's any parallel that we might be able to pull from how you surrender into receiving information when you're in a plant medicine ceremony, and how you can take in information that's coming to you from our daily life in modern civilization, just going through our days, and how the overwhelming onslaught of that information sometimes.
Well, everything starts with intention, as I always say. So if your intention is to be freaked out and overwhelmed, then pretty successful strategy is to open up to all the modern technology methodologies and get overloaded and overdosed with the information. And since a lot of that information is based on profit motive, and what sells is excitement and danger and horror stories, and so there's a tremendous amount of that coming through the media. So if your intention is not to experience overwhelm and freaked out and stressed out and fearfully constricted about your next breath of being alive, then it means either going cold turkey and shutting down all of that information, or if you're like me, I like to have an awareness of kind of the broad strokes of what's happening in the world. So I'm not living in denial of it, but I can be in touch with it without getting every detail of it or getting it 24 hours a day. So I check that out through some media in the morning to get the broad strokes of it, and then I turn it off and I don't deal with it again until the next day. And I also so setting boundaries, just like in all relationships, it's important to set boundaries when you're interacting with an energy field that's toxic or potentially destructive in some way. And if you do have to interact with it, like a doctor or a nurse going into a hospital or a situation like that, then put a protective shield around yourself, so you're not naively just hoping for the best, but putting a protective shield around you. And so too, a protective shield around us from the negative energies that are in the field, other than awareness of what's going on, like I said, the broad strokes, but not overwhelmed by it, and then unplug from it and go back inside and drop into your access to the wisdom download from the universe, the wisdom power, creative energy of the universe, and ask the question of that access to wisdom: how can I create a response to what I learn about that's happening in the world? How can I create a response to the impact of what I've learned about through the media or through other people, what it triggers inside of me? Maybe fear, anxiety, judgment, depression, anger, whatever it might be. How can I create a response and work with those energies in a way that I'm not victim to them, but I create an interaction, a way of being in relationship with them, that I use them to help me work on my own consciousness and grow, put energy, attention, positive attention and energy into the qualities of consciousness and being that I want to have grow stronger. Because I'm reminded of the statement once that Ram Dass said many years ago. He said, all you're ever doing is working on your own consciousness. And of course, your consciousness is connected to all consciousness, because on the deeper level, there's no separation. So to facilitate change in the world in the directions we want to make it go, or at least I want to go, and I assume most people, and hopefully all people listening to this, in a more peaceful and just and harmonious and healthy and happy world for all, then everything starting with intention to learn how to work with these energies in a way that opens the doorway to bring through fullest blossoming, greatest good for all.
It's funny, I'm listening, and that all sounds good, and I love it. And I'm hearing the voice of a woman I had a meeting with this past week, and we were talking about intention. And this is like the third week, I think, of Shamanic Sundays that this topic of intention has come up. And I know, that's an important one for our life, of course, because it's tied into how we are living every day, which is all we've got. But she said something about, yeah, but there's that saying that the road to hell is paved with good intentions. And then listening to you just now talk about intentions again, I'm like, what's the background of that saying. And I'm curious, like, what does that bring up for you right now, thinking of what we're talking about with the power of intention and then that phrase?
Okay, well, that's a good one. The road, I've heard that expression. Yeah, the road to hell is paved
With
with
good intentions.
intentions.
Yeah.
What immediately that brings up the word in my mind of attachment.
Mm.
So I have my intentions
Mhm.
to do, let's say, like to do the best I can today, um, and to be peaceful, to stay peaceful. And then, as you well know, how easily I can get triggered and frustrated when mechanical things like working with the phone or the
I have no idea what you're talking about.
quickly I can get triggered into reactivity and anger and frustration and so my
especially the right.
so if I so if I'm holding on rigidly to the intention and with an attachment that I have to be that way of staying peaceful and not getting triggered, then I'm creating a hell state for myself because I failed. I wasn't good enough. I wasn't smart enough. I blew it. It'll whatever the negative judgments is, which creates suffering, which you could say is a hell state. So I think for me, I have to accept that as a part of my nervous system, hardware, whatever, um, I can get triggered easily into a reactive situation. And all my attempts of half a century to keep that from happening, I've improved, I think, considerably with prevention, but it still happens. And so I have to accept that as part of my humanity. And instead of judging myself, hold myself with tenderness and compassion. So I'm not suffering in terms of judging myself, crucifying myself. And it frees me up then to move through it and come back to my intention, see where I dropped the ball, what triggered it, what I can learn from that, and then instead of staying stuck in judgment toward myself or feeling sorry for myself or guilty or ashamed or whatever, I can open up to the next breath is totally clean and healing and release what needs to go and start again, come back to my intention again, and so instead of attachment to an outcome, I think the hell state comes from attachment to the outcome of intention. Show up, give it our best shot, accept our humanness when we drop the ball, as I do every day in one way or another. That's part of being alive. That's part of being a human being. I'm not a perfect, enlightened being. I'm a man in process, and every breath of being alive is opportunity to choose again how I want to use the gift of life flowing into me to create what I want to experience in the moment, suffering or opening my awareness to love's presence and wake up, wise up, and live love now.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah,
That's what comes up for
good.
me.
I like that. That makes sense. Thank you. Thinking about attachment, um, so that juxtaposition of intention and attachment. There's of course, like there's a lot of Buddhist philosophy and teachings around that. But for today's purpose and thinking of Shamanic Sundays and shamanic practice and the experience of going into a plant medicine ceremony has been described as like a death practice, because there's an element of letting go and surrendering into something bigger than you. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, I think the dynamic of letting go into something bigger than my ego is relevant to us, not just if we're ingesting a psychoactive plant substance or on a vision quest. I think it's relevant to us in our lives, our daily lives, with, again, intention. Do I want to live my life today, this day that I'm given to live, the only one I'm guaranteed? No guarantee I'll be here at the end of the day, but I'm here now, so how can I best use it? Um, the question of what do I want to create? What do I want to experience in this moment? And if I choose to give my power to run my show, so to speak, to my ego, I'm gonna get one result.
Mhm.
I choose to not make my ego bad or wrong, would not let it run the show, just like you wouldn't let a 2-year-old child, if you're driving down the freeway and you get tired, take the wheel while you take a nap. You're not going to let that happen. It's not good,
Mhm. Yeah.
bad. It's just not appropriate. It's not skillful, and it's actually stupid and life-threatening. Well, the same could be said for giving our full power to our egos to run the show,
Mhm.
to acknowledging our ego, but not giving the power to it to run the show, and instead turning that power over to a great spirit, to the creative wisdom power of the universe, to God, to the Holy Mother, whatever you want to call it, to the Tao. Uh, and say, with the understanding of, you know a lot more than my ego knows. You know a lot more than my rational, logical mind, no matter how many degrees or IQ my rational mind is, whatever. You know how to create a universe. You know how to sustain a universe. And so I'd rather open my attention to your wisdom and ask you, um, or surrender to you, and let you know I'm making myself available to be used by you to serve your will instead of my ego's will. So I think that's a big letting go of identifying the totality of our being in terms of our ego, uh, letting it go, letting it release. So it's not making it wrong or killing it or making it bad or anything. Just letting go of giving it power to run the show, recognizing there's a whole lot more to me. There's a whole lot more to us than our egos, our physical bodies, and our stories. And I'd rather depend on that whole much, that so much more of who and what I am, which is in all of us, that connection to the universal wisdom power, for guidance about how to meet the challenges in my lives than my ego. So that's the letting go, I think, that's important for us and available to us every day of being alive and every moment. Who am I going to let run the show, my ego or spirit?
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, thinking of the coming week ahead and what we've just been talking about, I think it would be really cool if you could guide us in a visualization. Um, First, I just realized we didn't really do much of a prayer when we first came together this morning. We just kind of jumped in. We did say thank you to all of you folks who are joining us, but I'm sitting here looking out a beautiful window and just seeing these gorgeous, rich green trees and buds on them and sunlight and uh, some big bird just flew by. But so I just want to give thanks to the spirits of the place where you're sitting and where all of our community is right now. Just gratitude for all of the beings and the ancestor spirits and the
Oh,
gifts of today for all of us being here together. And giving that thanks in the spirit of sacred reciprocity before we ask for some guidance for the week ahead. And maybe we could each take a second, take a couple deep breaths, and think about something that we want to let go of in this coming week. What is something that each of you wants to let go of in this coming week? And then, Dad, could you guide us in a visualization of doing that work in this coming week, please?
with the gift of our awareness, the gift of our awareness, being aware of our awareness. Listen inside your own deeper being. What is troublesome that you'd like to pull the plug on, you'd like to pull energy out of, and not put energy into it, activating a behavior that creates suffering for yourself? So, as you invited us, Kimberly, to just take a few moments here to listen into the gift of your awareness, deeper awareness, and identify, see what comes into your awareness of some behavioral trait or pattern, be it an action or thought, that doesn't serve your fullest blossoming and your greatest good, because we don't have power to change what we don't see. So just allow yourself to know awareness, behavioral or thought pattern that creates suffering for yourself. And notice the power of words, of thoughts, of beliefs, and the power of creative imagery that we all have access to. And as you identify that pattern, that behavior, you can begin to visualize in your mind. It's like it's a software program in your inner computer. And so you can push the erase button or the delete button on your computer from that program. You identify it, and then you can push the delete button from that software programming, whatever it might be. So take a moment to see that delete button, see your hand reaching out and pushing that delete button, and the dissolving, the energetic dissolving of that pattern, behavioral or thought pattern, dissolving, kind of like the smoke from a fire. You can see the smoke for a while, rises above the flames, then slowly it dissolves. Or the fog that comes in from the ocean or the bay or into a valley. But as the day progresses, that fog slowly, slowly dissolves away into the infinite oneness of the sky. And so too, in our own focused power of intention, using the instrumentality of our minds, of our focused consciousness with clear intention, to use the gift of life that flows in anew, to create a new program, a new software program that we can energize and empower with each new breath in. A new software program of opening our awareness to love's presence, to waking up and remembering we're more than our egos, our bodies, our stories, to remembering that we're sacred beings of luminosity, worthy of respect, that we are loved by the creative wisdom power of the universe that gives us this gift of life, the cleansing breath out. And our love, the essence of our being, is for giving and receiving, to wake up, remember the truth of our being, our purpose in being here, and be a channel for healing light and love out into the world, energizing that software program. And every day when we wake up, planting that seed of intention to be a good channel for Spirit's light and love flowing through us. When we go to bed at night, reviewing the day, seeing how we did, learning from where we dropped the ball with compassion and forgiveness, and using the insight gained from seeing how we dropped the ball to strengthen our ability with the next day of being awoken to the gift of life, to live our intention, to be a clean, open, pure, unattached channel to Spirit's light and love flowing through us, healing for us, and extending out into our families, our friends, our loved ones, and our work in the world for healing of the sacred who. May it be so. And thank you one and all for showing up, for listening. Thank you for the blessings of your life and for the blessing of your life that you are. Oh, Pomprios, thank you. All right.
Thank you. Thank you for the blessing of your life that you are.
Thank you.
Yeah. And thank you for
the
blessing of your life for each of you that's joining us here this morning. Woohoo! Have a great week ahead. Please share this with your friends and family. And we will see you next Sunday for Shamanic Sundays. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.